The Battle of Thermopylae stands as one of history's most legendary military encounters, where 300 Spartan warriors and their Greek allies faced impossible odds against the massive Persian Empire. What happened in those 3 agonizing days would echo through eternity, proving that courage and tactical brilliance could triumph over overwhelming numbers. Picture this: King Xerxes of Persia, the most powerful ruler on earth, has assembled the largest army ever seen. Ancient sources claim over 1 million men, though modern historians estimate around 100,000 to 200,000 warriors from across his vast empire. This isn't just an army, it's a walking apocalypse. Persians, Medes, Scythians, Indians, Arabs, warriors from every corner of the known world march under one banner, their weapons glinting like a metallic sea stretching beyond the horizon. Against this unstoppable force stands King Leonidas with exactly 300 Spartan warriors, supported by perhaps 7,000 other Greeks. The math is terrifying. For every Greek, there are potentially 30 to 100 enemies. Any rational military commander would surrender immediately. But these aren't rational men. They're Spartans, bred from birth for one purpose: war. The setting couldn't be more dramatic. Thermopylae, the hot gates, is a narrow coastal pass between mountains and sea. Here, the massive Persian advantage in numbers becomes almost meaningless. The pass is so narrow that only a handful of men can fight side by side. Leonidas has chosen the perfect killing ground, turning geography into his greatest weapon. When Xerxes' messenger arrives, demanding the traditional surrender, earth and water as symbols of submission, Leonidas delivers one of history's most defiant responses. "Come and take them," he growls, referring to their weapons. This isn't just refusing surrender. It's spitting in the face of the most powerful empire on earth. The psychological warfare begins immediately. Xerxes sends scouts to observe the Greeks, expecting to find them trembling in fear. Instead, they discover something that chills their blood. The Spartans are calmly exercising, oiling their bodies and combing their long hair. These men aren't preparing to flee. They're preparing to die beautifully. In Spartan culture, looking your best when you die is the ultimate honor. Day one explodes into violence that defies imagination. Xerxes unleashes his Medes first, confident that sheer numbers will overwhelm the Greeks in minutes. What happens next is a masterclass in military precision and controlled violence. The Greek phalanx formation is a work of deadly art. Bronze shields locked together, spears protruding like a bronze hedgehog. Every movement synchronized through years of training. The Medes crash into this bronze wall like waves against a cliff. The narrow pass forces them to attack in small groups, negating their numerical advantage. Persian arrows darken the sky, but Greek shields form an impenetrable roof. When a Persian officer boasts that their arrows will blot out the sun, Spartan warrior Leonidas delivers an immortal response. "Good, then we'll fight in the shade." The slaughter is methodical and terrible. Greek spears punch through Persian armor with mechanical precision. Bodies pile up so high that advancing Persians must climb over their own dead. The bronze-tipped spears of the Greeks, longer than Persian weapons, create a deadly no-man's land. Every Persian advance becomes a suicide mission. Xerxes watches in growing disbelief as wave after wave of his elite troops are cut down. His Medes, supposedly fearsome warriors, are being systematically destroyed by a force less than 1% their size. The ground becomes slippery with blood, and the metallic smell of death fills the air. Persian morale begins to crack as word spreads. The Greeks aren't human. They're bronze demons who cannot be killed. Hour after hour, the killing continues. The Greeks fight in rotation, fresh warriors stepping forward as others rest, but the overall formation never breaks. It's like fighting a machine designed for one purpose, turning living men into corpses. Persian commanders start having trouble getting their men to attack. Nobody wants to be the next to charge into that bronze meat grinder. Day 2 brings Xerxes' ultimate weapon, the immortals. These are his elite guard, 10,000 of the finest warriors in the Persian Empire, called immortals because their ranks are immediately refilled when someone dies. They've never been defeated, never retreated, never failed. If anyone can break the Greek line, it's them. The immortals attack with religious fervor, convinced that their superior numbers and elite training will succeed where others failed. The clash is apocalyptic. These aren't desperate conscripts. These are professional killers meeting professional killers. The sound of bronze on bronze rings across the pass like a deadly symphony. But something incredible happens. The immortals, despite their reputation and training, cannot break the Spartan line. The phalanx formation, perfected over generations, proves superior to individual heroics. Where Persian warriors fight as individuals, Greeks fight as a single organism. Every shield protects the man beside you. Every spear thrust is coordinated with your brothers. The immortals begin to die in heaps. Their own reputation becomes a curse. They cannot retreat without destroying the myth of Persian invincibility. So they keep attacking, and the Greeks keep killing them with methodical efficiency. By the end of day 2, Persian dead are stacked like cordwood, and even the mighty immortals are bleeding and broken. Xerxes is in shock. His million-strong army has been stopped cold by 300 Spartans and their allies. Worse, word is spreading throughout his massive camp that the Greeks might actually be invincible. Persian morale is collapsing as fast as their battle lines, but treachery changes everything. A local Greek named Ephialtes, seeking Persian gold, reveals a mountain path that leads behind the Greek position. This narrow goat track, unknown to Leonidas, allows Persian forces to outflank the supposedly impregnable Greek position. The ultimate betrayal comes not from Persian might, but from Greek greed. When Leonidas learns of the flanking maneuver, he faces an impossible choice. Retreat and save his men, or stay and die for something larger than survival. The decision reveals the true heart of Spartan culture. He dismisses most of the allied Greek forces. There's no point in everyone dying, but the 300 Spartans will not retreat. Their law forbids it. Their honor demands it. Their wives expect it. Day 3 becomes the final act of this bloody drama. Surrounded on all sides, outnumbered by ratios that beggar belief, the Spartans prepare for their last stand. They eat their final meal, knowing it will be their last. They sharpen their weapons one final time. They pray to the gods and prepare to join their ancestors in the afterlife. The final battle is pure savagery. Attacked from all sides, the Greek formation finally breaks apart. The disciplined phalanx becomes individual combats, Spartan warriors selling their lives as dearly as possible. They fight with spears until the spears break, then with swords until the swords shatter, then with their bare hands until their hands are cut off. Leonidas himself becomes a target for every Persian in sight. The man who has humiliated their empire, cost them thousands of lives, and proven that Persians can be beaten by Greeks. They surround him like wolves, stabbing from all angles, until finally the great king falls. But even in death, Spartans protect their own. They form a circle around Leonidas's body, dying one by one to prevent the Persians from desecrating their king. The last Spartans fall as the sun sets on the 3rd day. Every single one dies fighting. No surrenders, no pleas for mercy, no broken spirits. They die as they lived, as the ultimate warriors in service to something greater than themselves. The pass finally falls silent, except for the moans of wounded Persians and the cries of ravens gathering for their feast. Xerxes surveys the carnage with mixed emotions. Yes, he has won, but at what cost? His army has been mauled by a force that should have been crushed in minutes. Thousands of his best warriors are dead. The myth of Persian invincibility lies shattered among the corpses. And word of this incredible stand is already spreading across Greece like wildfire. The tactical impact is immediate and devastating for Persia. While Xerxes technically won the battle, the strategic victory belongs to Greece. The 3-day delay at Thermopylae has given other Greek city-states time to prepare their defenses. More importantly, the psychological impact is enormous. If 300 Spartans could slaughter thousands of Persians, what could 30,000 Greeks accomplish? The Battle of Thermopylae becomes the spark that ignites Greek resistance. The death of the 300 doesn't end Greek resistance, it supercharges it. Every Greek warrior now knows that Persians can be killed, that their massive army can be stopped, that courage and skill can triumph over numbers. The Spartan sacrifice has purchased something invaluable: hope. Within months, the Greeks achieved decisive victories at Salamis and Plataea, victories that might never have happened without the inspiration of Thermopylae. The Persian invasion fails. Their empire begins its long decline, and Western civilization is preserved. All because 300 men chose to die rather than surrender a mountain pass. But the true power of Thermopylae lies in what it represents about human potential. Here were ordinary men, well, as ordinary as Spartans could be, who faced impossible odds and chose death over dishonor. They transformed a military defeat into a moral victory that has inspired warriors for over 2,000 years. The story reveals something profound about courage. True bravery isn't the absence of fear, it's acting despite fear. The Spartans weren't fearless robots. They were men who understood they were going to die and chose to die in a way that would matter. They transformed their deaths into weapons more powerful than any sword. Consider the mathematics of their sacrifice. In 3 days, 300 Spartans and perhaps 2,000 other Greeks killed an estimated 10,000 to 20,000 Persians. That's a kill ratio that defies belief in ancient warfare. Modern military historians struggle to find comparable examples of such effective defensive fighting against overwhelming odds. The weapons and tactics tell their own story of preparation and skill. The Greek phalanx wasn't just a formation, it was a killing machine perfected over generations. The hoplon shield, weighing about 15 pounds, wasn't just protection. It was a weapon that could crush skulls and break bones. The dory spear, 8 to 10 feet long, gave Greeks a critical reach advantage over Persian weapons. Every piece of Spartan equipment was designed for maximum lethality. Their bronze breastplates could deflect arrows and sword strikes. Their greaves protected their legs from low attacks. Their helmets, with their distinctive horsehair crests, struck terror into enemy hearts while protecting the wearer's skull. This wasn't just armor. It was a carefully engineered system for turning men into unstoppable killing machines. The training that created these weapons was even more impressive. Spartan boys began military training at age 7, spending their entire lives preparing for moments like Thermopylae. They learned to fight in formation, to trust the man beside them with their lives, to prefer death to dishonor. By the time they reached Thermopylae, they had been preparing for this battle for decades. Persian equipment, while impressive in its own right, wasn't designed for the kind of grinding close combat that developed at Thermopylae. Persian tactics relied on archery, mobility, and overwhelming numbers. When forced into a narrow pass where they couldn't maneuver and their numbers didn't matter, they found themselves at a fatal disadvantage. The psychological warfare aspect of the battle is equally fascinating. Both sides used terror as a weapon, but in different ways. The Persians relied on the sheer intimidating spectacle of their massive army. The sight of hundreds of thousands of warriors stretching to the horizon was supposed to break enemy morale before the fighting even began. The Greeks, especially the Spartans, used different psychological tactics. Their calm preparation for death, their casual attitude toward overwhelming odds, their almost supernatural discipline under pressure, all of this was designed to unnerve their enemies. When Persian scouts reported that the Spartans were exercising and grooming themselves, they were witnessing psychological warfare at its most sophisticated. The cultural context makes the battle even more remarkable. This wasn't just Greeks versus Persians. It was two completely different worldviews in collision. The Persian Empire represented centralized authority, imperial power, and the subjugation of individual will to the god King Xerxes. The Greeks, especially the Spartans, represented something entirely different. The idea that free men fighting for their homes and families could defeat any tyranny. This ideological dimension transformed Thermopylae from a simple military engagement into a clash of civilizations. The Spartans weren't just fighting for territory, they were fighting for the principle that free men should not bow to tyrants. Their willingness to die for this principle sent a message that echoed far beyond the narrow pass where they fell. The leadership displayed by Leonidas deserves special attention. Ancient sources describe him as calm, determined, and utterly fearless in the face of impossible odds. His decision to stay and fight when he could have retreated wasn't reckless heroics. It was a calculated, strategic decision designed to buy time for Greece and inspire future resistance. Leonidas understood that sometimes defeat can be more valuable than victory. By choosing to die gloriously rather than live with dishonor, he and his 300 Spartans created a legend that would inspire Greeks for generations. They transformed themselves from mortal men into immortal symbols of resistance to tyranny. The tactical brilliance of the Greek defense can't be overstated. By choosing to fight at Thermopylae, Leonidas neutralized virtually every Persian advantage. Their superior numbers meant nothing in the narrow pass. Their cavalry was useless on the rocky terrain. Their archers, while effective, couldn't break a disciplined phalanx formation. The Greeks had essentially forced the Persians to fight the one kind of battle where Greek advantages would be maximized. The 3-day time frame adds its own drama to the story. Day 1, the Persians attack with confidence and are bloodily repulsed. Day 2, they bring their elite troops and suffer even heavier casualties. Day 3, betrayal allows them to surround the Greeks, leading to the final desperate battle. It's a perfect dramatic arc that builds tension to an inevitable but glorious climax. Modern military analysis of the battle reveals just how sophisticated the Greek tactics were. The rotation of fresh troops, the use of terrain advantages, the coordination between different Greek contingents, the management of supplies and equipment, all of this shows military planning and execution at the highest level. This wasn't a heroic last stand by amateur warriors. It was a professional military operation carried out by some of the finest soldiers in the ancient world. The weapons technology also played a crucial role. Greek bronzeworking had reached an extremely high level by this period. Their spears, swords, and armor were superior to most Persian equipment. The famous Spartan shield, the hoplon, was a masterpiece of defensive engineering, large enough to protect the entire torso, dished to deflect blows. With a grip system that left the warriors hands-free for spearwork, it was the perfect tool for phalanx fighting. The Persian response to their tactical difficulties reveals the limitations of their military system. Despite having warriors from dozens of different cultures and military traditions, they seemed unable to adapt their tactics to the unique challenges of Thermopylae. They kept throwing men at the Greek line in essentially the same way, hoping that eventually numbers would tell. This inflexibility cost them thousands of lives and nearly cost them the entire campaign. The intelligence aspect of the battle is equally fascinating. The Greeks had excellent knowledge of local terrain, allowing them to choose the perfect defensive position. The Persians, fighting in foreign territory, were dependent on local guides, one of whom betrayed them. This highlights the importance of intelligence and local knowledge in ancient warfare. The logistical challenges faced by both sides were enormous. The Persians had to supply their massive army in hostile territory, while the Greeks had to maintain their position with minimal supplies. The fact that the Greeks held out for 3 full days of intense combat speaks to their careful preparation and efficient use of resources. The role of religion and mythology in motivating both sides can't be ignored. The Persians fought for their god-king Xerxes, believing that divine favor guaranteed their victory. The Greeks fought for their city-states and their gods, believing that dying gloriously would secure them immortal fame. These weren't just military motivations. They were spiritual ones that gave both sides the strength to endure incredible hardship and violence. The aftermath of the battle shaped the rest of the Persian War and, arguably, the course of Western civilization. The Greek victories at Salamis and Plataea might never have happened without the inspiration provided by Thermopylae. The message was clear. Persians could be beaten, their massive armies could be stopped, and Greek freedom was worth dying for. The battle's influence on military thought has lasted for over 2 millennia. From Alexander the Great to Napoleon to modern special forces, military leaders have studied Thermopylae as an example of how superior training, tactics and morale can overcome overwhelming numerical odds. The principles demonstrated there, the importance of terrain, the power of defensive positions, the value of elite troops, remain relevant to this day. Perhaps most importantly, Thermopylae has become a permanent part of human consciousness as a symbol of resistance to tyranny. Whenever free people face overwhelming odds, they remember the 300 Spartans who chose death over submission. The battle has transcended its historical context to become a universal metaphor for courage in the face of impossible odds. The story of Thermopylae is ultimately about the power of human will. 300 men faced a force that should have crushed them in minutes. Instead, they held that force for 3 days, inflicted devastating casualties, and created a legend that has inspired humanity for over 2,000 years. They proved that sometimes the greatest victories come through the most glorious defeats, and that the human spirit, properly motivated and skillfully directed, can achieve the seemingly impossible. In those 3 agonizing days at a narrow mountain pass, the Spartans didn't just fight a battle. They fought for the principle that free men should never surrender to tyrants. Their sacrifice lit a fire that burned across Greece, eventually consuming the Persian invasion and preserving the foundations of Western civilization. The 300 may have died at Thermopylae, but their courage lives forever.